Welcome back everyone. Over the next few videos, we are going to learn about another hook, which is useContext. I've broken this down into three parts. For those of you who aren't familiar with the context API in React, we will first understand the what and why of React context. In the second part, we will understand how React context was used prior to hooks. And in the final part, we will learn how the useContext hook works, which basically makes things nicer. Alright, let's begin. What is the context API? Consider a React application that has lots of components. We have app component, which is the root component, and nested within the app component at different levels are several other components. At the first level, we have components A, B, and C. Nested within component B is component D, and nested within component C is component E. And as it turns out, component F is nested inside component E. So we have three levels in total. The requirement in our application is that components A, D, and F are supposed to display the logged in username. That information is maintained as a property in the app component. So to be able to display the username in the nested components, we need to pass down the username as a prop. For component A, it is pretty straightforward. Directly pass it as props. For component D, however, we have the intermediate component B. So we have to pass down username as a prop to component B, and that in turn has to pass down the prop to component D. Now the scenario is somewhat similar for component F as well. The prop has to be passed through component C and then component E, and then finally to component F. Even though components B, C, and E do not need the prop, we still have to send the prop through them to be able to pass it to components further down in the tree. Imagine if the component were to be nested 5 or 10 levels deep. All the components in between would have to forward the prop. This especially becomes a problem for certain types of props such as language preference, UI theme, and authenticated user, which are pretty much required by many components in your application. What would be nice is if we could directly send data to the required component without having to manually drill down the props through every level of the component tree. This is where context comes into picture. Context provides a way to pass data through the component tree without having to pass props down manually at every level. So we now know what problem context can solve. In the next video, let's see how the context API was used prior to hooks. That will help us appreciate what useContext hook brings to the table. I'll see you guys in the next video.